TYT Sports talking boxing as always with our guy Robert Exel, the editor-in-chief of boxing.com. Robert, how are you today?
I'm great, Rick. How are you?
Doing great. A humongous weekend in the sport of boxing. Finally, some life to this sport. Well, you could maybe argue that it happened a few weeks ago, but either way, Julio Cesar Chavez and Sergio Martinez should be a very interesting fight. A lot of shit talking back and forth in the press conferences. I want to start with Julio Cesar Chavez, the champion going into this fight, even though Sergio Martinez does not think that he is deserving to be a champion. 46-0-1 with 32 knockouts. He turned pro in 2003 and did not have an amateur career at all. He did not even fight once as an amateur. So let me ask you this. Are you impressed at all that Julio Cesar Chavez has gone from literally jumping into the ranks as a professional as opposed to building up an amateur career and possibly establishing himself there?
Well, yes, of course I am. It's very impressive. It's an impressive feat. I mean, having no background in the amateurs, he's turned himself into a really solid pro. Whether or not he is the greatest fighter, Mexican fighter in history, or the greatest middleweight living, is open to question, but he has turned himself into a solid and dependable pro, at least when he's in the ring.
He defeated Sebastian Zibik from Germany because Sergio Martinez was unfortunately stripped of his belt for fighting Sergey Zinzurek. Now, we'll get to that in just a moment. The reason that I said Sergio Martinez does not respect Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is in clear writing, actually. This is from the USA Today. Quoting Martinez, "It is very simple. I cannot accept the fact that he is a world champion. The only reason he is a world champion is because he is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the son of the legend, and his mouth is so big, even bigger than his own brain, and he's talking too much." And then there were a few other quotes saying that Chavez could not make weight because of sometimes his lazy training methods, his arrest on drunk driving charges, preparing for his fight against Marco Antonio Rubio. He was suspended by the NSAC for a couple years for failing an anti-doping test, skipping a drug urinalysis after his June title defense against Andy Lee, which I thought was a good win, and his disrespect for Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach when Chavez skips occasional training sessions in the gym. And Roach was even quoted as saying, "Sometimes we train at 1 in the morning, sometimes 3 in the morning, and sometimes we finish at 6 in the morning. But we got the work in every day." And then Martinez was quoted as saying afterwards, "If that isn't insulting our sport, I'm crazy." I want to apologize for just a moment. The former excerpt from an article was from ESPN. What I just read was from the USA Today. So with all of that information that I just read, Robert Exel, what is your reaction to Martinez saying that he is disrespecting the sport?
I think Martinez has an excellent point. And I agree that I believe that a lot of Chavez's success is simply because of his father. His father is a legend. His father was an incredible fighter. There's no question about that. When Chavez may have ridden on his coattails. There's a cozy relationship with the WBC and with Jose Suleiman. Everybody knows that. That's been going on for years and actually extends back to his father. But I think Sergio has a really good point about disrespecting the sport. Keeping oneself in shape is important. I mean, everybody's weight fluctuates somewhat between fights, but not as radically as it does with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. In addition, the DWI that you had mentioned, the drug test failure that you mentioned, the inability to provide a urine sample that you mentioned, all of these things are significant, and they are indicative of somebody who doesn't take boxing as seriously as boxing really needs to be taken. So I think Martinez has a really good point.
One other argument that could be made from this is that many people view Julio Cesar Chavez as obviously not a rags to riches story. He was given pretty much everything because of his father's career, and that he may lack that motivation. He may lack that fire that could possibly take out Martinez in the later rounds and stay competitive throughout. So that should be interesting as well. He has made 3 title defenses. We look through his track record right here. When he teamed up with Freddie Roach, they defeated John Duddy and then Billy Liao, Sebastian Zibik when he won Martinez's WBC title, for fighting Sergey Zinzurek, Peter Manfredo Jr., Marco Antonio Rubio, and Andy Lee. What do you say to the naysayers who doubt Chavez Jr.'s track record and his past fights?
Well, his past fight, I mean, they speak for themselves. None of these fighters are world-class fighters. He's fighting guys who are certainly smaller than him because he always comes in at least 10 pounds overweight. And none of them are really world-class middleweight champions. He hasn't sought to unify at all. There are other fighters with belts. So he is really stepping it up, and stepping it up in a major way. I don't know. I do know that he's going to outweigh Sergio, who's basically going to be coming in as like a junior middleweight, but he hasn't really ever fought a fighter like Sergio Martinez, who is really his own creation. He's so creative in the ring. He's fast. He uses angles. He's a southpaw. He has power. And Chavez is going to come to him. There's no question that Chavez has a good chin. He's proven that in the past, but he hasn't fought a fighter, I think, who is as strong as Martinez, who has as much power in his fists as Martinez, and is as elusive as Martinez is. So I think Chavez is going to have, it's not going to be an easy night for Chavez Jr.
Do you think that, well, you just said that Chavez Jr. will be most likely stalking Sergio Martinez in this fight. If that is so, do you think that Martinez will be comfortable enough and will be acclimated to fighting with his back, not against the ropes, but going backward? Do you think that he'll be comfortable with that?
I don't think it's a problem. I think he's going to be able to counter Chavez's punches, Chavez lunges. I don't think Martinez is going to find himself with the back to the ropes. He has a sixth sense about where he is in the ring. I mean, he's an incredibly graceful and fluid fighter, so I don't think he's going to get trapped in the ropes. That's what Chavez and Freddie are going to try to do, so that pin him against the ropes, start to deliver body shots. But Martinez knows Chavez like the back of his hand. He knows what to expect, and he knows exactly what he's going to do to avoid what it is that Freddie and Julio Jr. want to do.
Sergio Martinez, let's talk about him for a minute. Possesses a record of 49-2 with 28 knockouts. His story is not necessarily of the norm for most professional boxers. He's from Argentina. He was an astounding soccer player and an amateur cyclist. He took up boxing at age 20. Let me say that again. He took up boxing at age 20. He is now 37 years old, one of the most feared fighters in all of boxing. It's hard. We've talked about this before. It's easy to say that, you know what, because he fought later, he's now entering his prime. But how long can this guy's prime last since he's 37 years old?
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out Saturday night. But as you know, the age limit, usually boxers retired at the age of 32. That was the norm. That's no longer the norm anymore. As you know, we have Glenn Koff Johnson. We have Bernard Hopkins. I mean, there are a lot of fighters who are past their prime, yet who keep fighting. And yet Martinez, at 37, is a young 37. He entered the gym not to study boxing, but to sort of train in the off season for soccer. And once he got in the gym, he liked it. He said, "This is a lot easier than soccer, which is running around all day." He liked it. He took to it, and he uses the athleticism that he brought to the gym for the first time to his boxing. And because he's self-trained, I mean, he's an incredibly unconventional fighter, unconventional in the way that Ali was unconventional, not in the same way, but in a way sort of self-created. So there's no blueprint for fighting for fighting Martinez, except to watch his tapes, hope that you can figure out what the blueprint is, and then hope that one can deal with it. So Martinez he's one of boxing's gifts. He's one of the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters on the planet right now. And Chavez is going to have a tough night. I can't see it being otherwise.
What is the blueprint, Robert? I mean, you've seen a ton of fights in your career covering this great sport. What is the blueprint to possibly beating Sergio Martinez?
I think you try to outbox him. I think that's what it is. I mean, you look at Darren Barker, who is not a world beater, but Darren Barker put on a damn good performance against Martinez, and it was by boxing him. It was by having a tight defense, using a jab. It was like as a classical boxer that he was able to sort of make an impression, and eventually Martinez broke him down and, you know, knocked him down and won the fight. But Barker put on a great performance. Unfortunately, Chavez is not a classical boxer. I mean, that's not what his gifts are. His gifts are power, that good left hook, the body punches, an excellent chin, but it's not exemplary boxing skills. So I don't know what Chavez can do except, again, try to bull Martinez to the ropes. You try to trap him in a corner so he can deliver his heavy bombs. But again, Martinez knows that that's what's coming, and he's going to use every inch of that ring to avoid getting hit, and he's going to be countering all the time. And Chavez is going to come lumbering forward, and Martinez is going to be sharpshooting.
Robert, Martinez's corner has been the subject of much conversation since Gabby Sarmiento, who was his longtime trainer, they met in Spain. Sarmiento recognized the talent that Sergio has, started training him. And before the Sergey Zinzurek fight, he was held in custody for aggravated battery, and then he was sent back to Spain. So his brother Pablo Sarmiento takes the reins and becomes Sergio Martinez's trainer. And now I read off of BoxingScene.com that Naazim Richardson will also be in the corner as an assistant trainer. What do you say to that? Do you think that this could possibly be a distraction, or do you like it? Do you like the fact that Naazim has a track record of going in the opposing fighters' dressing room and realizing that, you know what, there may be some problems with the hand wraps, wrap them again? I went on forever with that tangent, but overall, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a good idea rather than a bad idea. And your reason for Naazim to be in the corner is quite correct. I mean, they don't want any funny business. They know there's been funny business in the past with Chavez and his fights, and they want to prevent that. So having somebody like Naazim, who is a really smart and knowledgeable boxing guy, you know, to make sure that everything is in place before the fight happens, makes a great deal of sense. I don't think that Sarmiento and Naazim Richardson are both going to be giving advice to Sergio in the corner. I mean, Sergio knows what he has to do. A champion at a certain point really becomes his own trainer. These people are called seconds because that's what they are. They're seconds. They're not first. They're seconds. And they will serve the interests of Sergio Martinez, and they will not be competing with each other. They will be serving the interests of Sergio Martinez.
Years back, Sergio Martinez lost a controversial decision to Paul Williams. Since that loss, however, he has been almost unstoppable, fighting with a chip on his shoulder. Very quickly, he fought Kelly Pavlik, dismantled Kelly Pavlik is a better way to put it, demolished Paul Williams in 2 rounds, which was, he was crowned the champion on that day, but he was also crowned knockout of the year. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link in the description below. Sergey Zinzurek, he crushed Sergey Zinzurek. A nothing fight. Darren Barker, Matthew Macklin, both fights ended in the 11th rounds, but they were very competitive. They really were, and these guys landed some punches on Sergio Martinez. So let me ask you this. Maybe one criticism that you could have for both fighters is that their defenses maybe at times do not exist. For Sergio Martinez, he fights with his hands down. He is, granted, he is an athletic mofo, but he keeps his hands down the entire time. For Julio Cesar Chavez, his hands are so far apart from his face that you could just jab your way in. So whose defense, if there even is any, will hold up?
I'm assuming that the defense of Martinez is going to hold up because, in part, Martinez's legs are an integral part of his defense. He has incredibly fast legs. He has incredibly eloquent feet. He's going to be moving around the ring. I mean, he puts his hands up as he comes in, but again, he likes to fire off punches from some strange angles, so he leaves his hands low. And it's deceptive because people feel as though there's an opening there, but of course, as soon as they take a shot, he is out of the way and or he counters. I think with Martinez, with his last 2 fights against Barker and Macklin, I think Martinez fought down to his competition in those fights. He's not the first person to do that, nor will he be the last. But I think he is so psyched for this fight. I think more psyched for this fight probably than any fight in his career. And the best Sergio Martinez that there is going to be in the ring tomorrow night. And I personally am really looking forward to watching him perform. Whether it's win, lose, or draw, I'm looking forward to watching him perform.
Have you ever seen Sergio Martinez talk this much smack before a fight, too?
I have not. I mean, I think he is really emotional about this. I mean, I have spoken with him in the past, and again, he has referred to Chavez as a chicken, and many of the themes that have been have been verbalized incessantly over the past month or two were always sort of percolating below the surface. But now that the fight is being made, it's sort of like Sergio Martinez unleashed, and he's saying exactly what he feels, exactly what he's been feeling, and again, one could say that all that emotion is a negative thing, but I think once he gets in the ring, there will be no more talking. Will be necessary. He'll let his fist do the talking. He has a point to prove, not only to the boxing world at large, but also to Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., which is basically that Martinez believes that he's a fraud, and he's going to expose him.
Chavez Jr. will make $3 million minimum on this fight, and Sergio Martinez will make $1.4 million minimum on this fight. Martinez, lastly, was quoted as saying, Chavez will get more money, but he's going to get more of a beating, too. Robert Exel, your prediction for this fight, will it go the distance? Will there be a knockout? What say you?
I do not think it will go the distance. I really do believe that Sergio is going to stop Chavez Jr. I believe in the 10th or 11th round. I think he's going to take a battering. Once Sergio gets past gets into the middle rounds, I think Sergio will take over. And I think he's going to be landing a lot, and I think Chavez is going to get very frustrated, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Chavez were to go down at least once.
Just want to remind you guys, Mexican Independence Day on Saturday, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Sergio Martinez at the Thomas and Mack Center. HBO pay-per-view, $49.95 for the 160-pound WBC title belt. Robert Exel, the editor-in-chief of Boxing.com, great talking to you as always. You could also follow him on Twitter at boxing_com and follow his great writing at www.boxing.com. Robert, thank you so much for the time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Enjoy the fight.